If you're a black or mixed race woman with natural, kinky, coily or curly hair and you feel like you've maybe struggled for years with feeling confident about wearing your hair in its natural state, or maybe you're somebody who's relaxed or chemically straightened their hair and you keep going through the cycle of breakage and serious damage because your hair really just doesn't like this chemical process and you can't really manage it. You can't manage to keep up with the maintenance for your hair and what it needs. Then this video is probably for you. Now, this is not about to be a how-to or tutorial type of video. Nope. Also, not about to drop the next miracle hair growth product on you. So don't expect that neither. This is a bit more than that. Child, I'm about to keep it all the way real with y'all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Amina Cheryl. I'm a natural hair care therapist, the founder of NHT London, a small homegrown business where I produce hair care products, services, and programs to help empower Black women and girls to challenge their perception of hair and beauty. When I was about 12 years old, I really wanted to be able to do these gelled up, gelled down baby hair swirls and waves that all the girls my age and older were doing at the time. Yes, baby hairs. You're probably watching this and saying, they're called edges, auntie. Yeah, I know. That's what we called them back in the day in secondary school. Okay. So yeah, we're going to go with baby hairs for the sake of nostalgia. Anyway, at that point in my life, I had made it an absolute mission to succeed in making these baby hairs lie down, right? So I could achieve these funky patterns and swirls and, but they would not lie down. No matter how much Dax or Jam or Dark and Lovely or Freeze and Shine gel I used, them damn baby hairs refused to lay down. But there was two things that I didn't comprehend at the time. One was that I had a completely different texture of hair to the girls who I was seeing these hairstyles on. And two, the hairs I was looking at that were stuck down on the front of their hair were not actually baby hairs, because the fact is that they were not babies and they were in fact just gelling down their hair onto their faces. But instead, I concluded that the reason that my baby hairs wouldn't lie down was because I didn't have any. So I decided to manufacture some. So I stood in my bedroom mirror assessing what to do about it, and I hatched a little plan. Yeah, I literally convinced myself that this thing would work, right? And I got a red tail comb and I parted a section of hair from ear to ear. Literally made sure it was 1 inch in width all the way around my hairline. And then I got a pair of scissors, which were just some any scissors from the house. They weren't for cutting hair, but I decided that that's what I was going to do. And I proceeded to cut the front section of my hair. Bear in mind that this section of hair, my hair was about 10 or 12 inches long at the time. And I literally just chopped that section of hair down to 1 inch in length. And of course, it was after the fact that I found out just how stupid of an idea that was. That 1 inch piece of hair was defiantly shrinking up into little coils, which just sat up in the air, and they were like in protest at what I'd done to them. And I used so much gel trying to make it flat. It was like somebody just threw slime all over the front of my head. And all I could do was cry angry tears quietly in my room. Well, I say quietly, but I really didn't want my mum to hear me, and she did. So she opened my bedroom door to find out what was wrong with me. And when she saw me and heard my explanation, she actually just laughed and called me an idiot and closed back the door and went about her business. Yeah, I did all of that to try and give myself some baby hairs. I mean, I was 12, guys. I thought it was a good idea. And trust me, I have gone through that scenario in my head many, many, many times. And I really couldn't honestly tell you what was the actual thought process. But there came a point when I really had to ask myself, why though? Why did I think that was okay? Why did I think I needed to cut the front of my own hair to give myself edges that I didn't naturally have? Why wasn't I content with my own natural hairline? What I realize now is that there was an underlying and unarticulated fear of embarrassment and shame, which was compelling me to have this look, this style with my hair. And it was literally by force, because my natural hair didn't seem to achieve this style. So I convinced myself that I needed to manipulate my hair somehow so that I could achieve this look that I wanted. So when it dawned on me that I could achieve this look if my hair was texturized or relaxed, it was at this point that I began to really believe that my hair would look so much better and that I could do so much more with my hair if only it was straight. My natural hair was too picky, so I told myself. It just shrivels up and goes dry, so I told myself. I sold myself this story that straight hair is better than my afro hair. And from that day, I made up my mind that my hair was not enough. Not pretty enough, not straight enough, not long enough, not good enough. I lacked confidence in myself because I didn't feel like I could ever be popular, I guess, or fit in. I mean, being popular meant you had to have the latest clothes, the latest trainers, the latest jackets, the jewelry, all these things, right? I didn't really have any of that. But it was even worse that I didn't have what felt like a basic necessity, straight hair. Because at least with straight hair, you didn't get picked on or laughed at or bullied. So I felt below basic. In all honesty, I just felt very unattractive. If you're still with me and you're enjoying this video, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel, because I want to continue to provide insightful, engaging videos for you guys about hair care and self-care. And by subscribing to my channel, you're helping me to be able to do that for you. Why did I start with this story? Well, because it leads into the reason why I started to explore the idea of understanding this other side of hair care. So about 4 years ago or so, there was a video of a little 4-year-old black girl called Ariana, which went viral on the internet. Now, she went viral for saying 3 words that literally brought tears to the eyes of millions of people. And no one expected what she was about to say, and that it would go on to be a catalyst for multi-layered conversations about this topic throughout the whole entire African diaspora.
I've been playing with you, I don't even like kids.
I'm so ugly. What?
Don't say that. Don't say that. Don't say that. You are so pretty. You all shut up. Go in the room. When you look at yourself, you supposed to say, I'm so pretty. You are so pretty. Do you hear me? You got the prettiest little dimples. You are too cute. Oh. Ariana, you gonna make me cry. You're not ugly. Baby girl.
Ariana's innocently spoken statement was absolutely heartbreaking for so many people, men and women. And what I don't think people were ready for was how triggering those words were. It was a trigger that had laid dormant for so many Black women and men. A trigger that sort of sent, the people that heard it into their 5, 6 and 7-year-old selves. But it wasn't just what she said. It was also the sound of that baby girl's cry. For me, that painful cry just came like roaring from the base of her throat, and it made me remember I was Ariana. So, like anything else on social media, the speculation about what might have been Ariana's reasons for saying that, it all began to pile up in the comment sections on all platforms. Everyone had an opinion, of course. But one thing that was clear to me was that none of these reasons were facts. But all of these reasons were someone's truth. And so many of these reasons were my truth. And then the memories that had been tucked away in my subconscious for decades, they just came flooding back. And I remembered being 5 and being the only Black girl in my class. I remembered that feeling of loneliness, wandering around the playground, looking for someone to play with, and being shunned by the other children. I remembered my own tears rolling down my face as I hid away in the cloakroom at playtimes, feeling isolated, ashamed, and ugly, because my conclusion was that the reason why none of the other children wanted to play with me was because my skin wasn't white and my hair wasn't straight. So there's a woman called Dr. Joy Degruy who coined the term post-traumatic slave syndrome. Now, this term describes the multi-generational trauma experienced by people throughout the African diaspora since the dawn of the transatlantic slave trade. Now, one of the conclusions that she reached was that Black people in today's society have got to a state where we have pathologized our own physical features and attributes, meaning we've made our features into symptoms that require rectification or manipulation or change, as if we're disgusted by them.
And here's how you do it. You pathologize the people. Now, let me read what they said about Black women, because it gets real specific, Black women. Their first pathological symptom was their skin color. In a medical world that categorized life as either normal or pathological, people of the African diaspora were continually condemned to the category of pathological, their abnormal skin serving as a foil for normal white skin. Stay with me. The skin, if you see Black people, the problem is the skin itself is pathological because it's actually a foil over normal white skin. This is what medical journals suggested.
But she says this is a false narrative, which comes as a result of the pathologization of Black features and attributes by the so-called medical experts who conducted centuries of biased, inhumane medical experiments on black slaves. They were the ones who promoted most of the narratives about black people in society that have fueled racism and colorism till today.
Surely I raped them, but didn't they deserve it? Now we need evidence of how we know they're lustful and immoderate and immoral. Here we go. Their protruding buttocks and genitals were offered as physical evidence of their pathology. Anybody up there with a big butt? Anybody with a big butt out there? There you have it, you slut.
So in much simpler terms, a set of harmful and false narratives about black people have been told for centuries. Society has taken on those narratives and made them beliefs, and black people have not only been made to believe these things about themselves, but they have also gone on to adopt and live out these narratives. The truth is, slaves had their community, their culture, their honor, their dignity completely stripped from them. But for the female slaves in particular, they were stripped of their community, their culture, their honor, their dignity, their grace, their virtue, their femininity, their motherhood, and every part of their womanhood. And as a result of that, today, Ariana is a drop in an ocean of many black women like myself who feel or have felt exactly how Ariana did. Ugly. People who say things like, "But it's just hair," they don't see how dismissive this is, or how important it is to unpack this relationship that black women have with their hair. I'm not going to go into the depths of racism in today's society, and I'm definitely not going to talk about the civil rights movement or, the lynchings or the Jim Crow era or the Caribbean plantations. I'm not going to talk about none of that. I'm not going to talk about colonization, because all of that info is already out there for everyone to look for and to research for themselves. But I do want to mention this. When it comes to the matter of the unsolicited rapes and sexual abuse of the female black slaves, especially the rapes that were intentionally and specifically done with the goal in mind of fading out the black race from the earth, there came the birth of an estimated 600,000 mixed race babies during those 400 years to start with.
We need to really take a look at this one, because I have a whole chapter on rape. Can't even get close to what that did to me. There were over, and this comes out of a social work book. In a social work book, it states that there were over 600,000 mixed race babies born in the mid-1800s based on the census. Now this was during miscegenation. That means it's illegal to marry. So who was sneaking out back and who was raping whom? We have numbers. Young girls rarely made it to their teens before they were raped.
And then what slave masters did was they laid the foundations for the development of colorism within the black slave population. They favoured the house slaves, who were normally the lighter skinned slaves, over the field slaves, who were normally always the darker skinned slaves. And they pitted them against each other. The slaves with the nappy hair were pitted against the slaves with the good hair. The slaves who were actually brothers and sisters were fueled with jealousy and hatred between them. So just think about it. After 2, 3, let alone 4 centuries of female slaves being mentally, emotionally abused with the same rhetoric day in and day out, the physical abuse breaking their bodies and the sexual abuse breaking their spirits, their children being stolen from them, beaten in front of them, their men being killed, beaten in front of them, living in fear of their families being torn apart without a moment's notice every day that God sends. How on earth could this by itself not be enough to establish the roots of multi-generational trauma? For Black people, adaptive behaviours, or what I call survival behaviours, have become so normalised that we've just become deceived by this subconscious belief that it's just all for the culture.
White people don't do that to white people. We have pathologized what is naturally us. And when we would want to assault or insult, you black, big lip, nappy head, stay with me. You see, that's called post-traumatic slave syndrome. That's what that looks like. And then white people go, well, no wonder, look at them. They're so negative.
We literally have adopted the same type of language that has been used against us by using it on each other to judge and shame each other into maintaining these survival behaviours as a collective. We do it as a collective. It's a norm for us. It's part of the culture. Her hair looks picky. Where's she going with that nappy head? Girl, you need to do something about your child's hair, you know. Why does she look like that? We do this. We shame and judge each other. But that's the thing. Shaming each other isn't it. Like, we can't shame each other into change. We have to love ourselves and each other into evolution. Every day, the world that I see through social media and news outlets never fails to teach me that Black lives are seen as less valuable. Every day I have to teach my children how to exist in this world based on the injustices that I see with my own eyes against people who look like me and them. The collective trauma that our ancestors endured made them hypervigilant to every possible threat, so they had no choice but to develop survival behaviours to stay alive, to protect themselves as much as they could from their oppressors, to avoid the shame of being told they were lazy, uncivilized, inferior, ugly animals. The collective trauma that Black people worldwide experienced when we all witnessed the very public lynching of George Floyd is an absolute testimony to the fact that those survival behaviours are still, to this day, a necessity for our survival as Black people in this society. They're so ingrained in our psyche as Black people that we don't even recognise them as survival behaviours. They've literally become part of the culture. We even bust jokes about it on social media. Black comedians have been using this stuff as material in their sets for years. This is normal to us. We breathe these survival behaviours. Every Black person knows when you walk into a place where you're ethnically outnumbered, you start scanning the room to see how many other Black people are there. Every Black person knows that before they book a holiday to a different country that they've never been to, they have to find out how racist is this place on a scale of 1 to 10. We stay clear of certain areas or events if it sounds too Caucasian. And that's why, for most, if not all Black women, our hair has never been just hair. Because our hair is one of the most defining things about our identity. For most, if not all Black women, our hair is a sensitive and a personal topic. Because when we're conscious of other people, especially from other races looking at our hair with expressions that signify shock or disgust or humour. It invokes feelings of discomfort. For most, if not all black women, we have at some point experienced a struggle with making sure that our hair and our beauty fit perfectly into the box confined by the margins of the European beauty standard, because not fitting into that box aligns with being judged, being considered less than desirable, and being told directly or indirectly that we're unattractive. And that is the underlying and unarticulated fear of embarrassment and shame that I was talking about at the beginning of this video. The fear of being perceived as a lazy, uncivilized, inferior, ugly animal. When we talk about Madam C.J. Walker, you know she was an absolute pioneer in black women's hair care, and she brought black women together through hair care in a way that embodied the essence of community. And over the years, hundreds of talented stylists have styled and manipulated the tresses of black women into position, creating the most beautiful and iconic styles. Styles that brought temporary smiles to anxious faces. The salon chair became a notorious place to release stress and rant about the trials and tribulations of life. It was a place that we could be transformed into a version of ourselves that we could admire for a time. You put yourself in a position of trust with another black woman to be able to give you what they know you need to feel better about yourself and to keep yourself going for as long as that style can last. Who doesn't enjoy feeling pampered and being relieved of the responsibility of having to nurture their own locks? That has been our thing, and Allah knows we needed it and do. But really and truly, I'm gonna be honest with you, as a black woman who has been a stylist in this hair care industry for over 20 years, it's not enough, because for many, it's just another survival behavior. It's just another one that is wrapped up in a pretty paper with a nice pretty bow on the top. Let me break it down. Okay, so many black women have tried the natural hair journey and reverted back to the relaxers and the texturizers because they say natural hair is too much. It's too much hard work. It's stressful. It's boring. They can't maintain the maintenance. They can't keep it up, and they've just had enough. But if they are honest with themselves, like really genuinely honest with themselves, most black women are just not satisfied with the way their natural hair looks. They don't want to look like that. They crave the straighter, longer and looser curl types because they feel better about themselves. They feel good about themselves with those looks. They love a sleek 30-inch bust down. They want to look like a somebody, like a Beyonce or a Nicki or a Cardi, anybody but themselves. That image has become themselves. That's when they feel like themselves. Let's be honest, we've all felt that. And they don't want the responsibility of having to look after their own hair. Now, before you all come for me in the comment section, talking about, here we go again, natural hair police. Listen, I'm not knocking no one, yeah? I'm not knocking no one, you know? Because women like myself who have been on this natural hair care journey for a while, for me it's been like over 10 years, like since 2011. We've also felt every bit of that. We hit that same internal glass ceiling so many times and still do. But those of us who have persevered on this journey have realized that most of the work that had to be done was on an internal level. There's been a lot of unpacking, a lot of unpacking and a lot of unlearning. And I'm talking about the beliefs that we hold about ourselves, the stuff we tell ourselves daily, the intrusive thoughts, the inner narrative that we all carry. So this is by no means at all a judgment against other Black women's feelings towards their hair. It's more so an invitation to begin to dig a little deeper and, just learn more about your hair, but also learn more about yourself and ask yourself more about why on those days when you aren't feeling your best, why you're feeling that imposter syndrome, why are you hearing these negative thoughts, and ask yourself, whose voice is that? When you catch that passing thought that said, girl, you look like a mess, you look like right now, ask yourself, why can't you give yourself some grace? Why are you so hard on yourself? I really do believe that for Black women to dismantle this box of the perpetuated European standard of beauty that has us in a chokehold, or has had us in a chokehold for so long, each individual really has to break through their own internal glass ceiling. And to do that, you've got to pay attention to the moments when those unarticulated fears of embarrassment and shame come up for you, and face them, question them, analyze them, and be honest with yourself about them. Many people, especially my Black sisters, may be watching this, and thinking, whatever. Not everything is related to trauma. It's not always down to the lack of self-love. And that might be true for you, but for someone else, they just connected the dots. So if that's you connecting the dots right now in your mind, then I ask you to stand back and really take a look at the picture that I'm presenting. Really deep what I'm saying, because the European standard of beauty isn't really the problem anymore. The problem, the issue, is really just rooted in acceptance, self-acceptance. If you feel like watching more of my videos and you want to binge a little bit, then I recommend this video here. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.